Hi, and welcome back to I Was Thinking. I'm Nafis.
I'm Simone.
And I'm Macy.
And we're still trying to wake up, guys.
We'll get better at the rotation of who to go next and all that. It's rare for us to all record at the same time like this consecutively, so
that's true. It's been a while.
Yeah, but we're here.
But how are you guys? How's it going?
I'm here.
Right?
Yeah.
Alive.
And still pushing.
Yep.
How are you, Macy? How's it going?
I'm fine. I am at the point in my job where I'm kind of doing things on my own now. Like, my teacher is still there and to ask me questions, but she's got her own dogs now, and I've got my own dogs, and I'm kind of just doing everything on my own, which is a little stressful because I only really had 2 weeks of practical, like, teaching, and then here you go. Go for it.
Don't you love when they do that?
That's exciting, though.
Yeah, but I've been doing well. Each groom I do seems to have, like, less things that she points out at the end that I need to, like, fix.
That's good.
And I'm trying to more so work on my speed now, because I really only feel super comfortable I work like 8-hour shifts, and I truly only feel comfortable really doing one dog in the morning and one dog in the afternoon, where technically I'm supposed to be doing 2 dogs in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. Okay. So I did that yesterday, and it went longer than I would have liked. So now I'm just trying to work on like my speed, now that I'm getting better at like the technical stuff. So
I was wondering that, like, how many dogs you guys actually try to get done in a day.
So, like, our fastest groomer does like 8 a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the mid-range is like 3 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. So.
Okay. I mean, that's still seeing like 5 dogs in a day. So.
Yeah. It's
how
kind
long
of
does
like.
it take to groom?
So from start to finish, I think the goal is to, like, it depends on what kind of dog it is, because it could be a huge dog, like a doodle. We have a lot of doodles in this area because rich people like them, but that's besides the point. Or like a poodle, a standard poodle is like a big dog. So if you think about, like, the time it's going to take to more so dry it, like bathe it, and then you have to dry it, and then you have to do the full haircut. So, like, a bigger dog, I would say no more than an hour and a half. And then if you have like a Yorkie or something, or a Maltese, you should be able to do that in about 45 minutes. So just kind of depends.
Hang on, because you said a doodle and a poodle, and I thought those things were the same. What is the difference?
A doodle is like we call them doodles, but like anything like a golden doodle is a golden retriever and a poodle mixed together, or a labradoodle is a Labrador retriever mixed with a poodle. So we just call it the realm of doodles.
So they're basically just dogs that are mixed?
Mixed with poodles, yeah.
Mixed with poodle,
so like,
okay.
Like a Bernedoodle is a Burmese mountain dog mixed with a poodle. Aussie Doodle, Australian Shepherd mixed with a poodle.
God, there's so many.
That is so interesting.
So people think mixing any type of dog with a poodle makes it better, but they are all absolute psychos. So, like, you took poodles are so smart. They're so smart. And, like, every time a standard poodle comes in, I'm like, oh, thank goodness. It's not, like, a mix of anything, because they're gonna not be afraid of the water. They're gonna like the dryer. They're gonna get up on the table fine. They're not gonna squirm around or try to pull their feet away, because they're just, like, smart and, like, know that you're not hurting them. Where a doodle is gonna, like, freak out, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I bit you. The water snuck up on me, So
that's interesting. Yeah, poodles are very smart. When I was young, I used to have a neighbor that had one, and sometimes, like, when we would pass her, like, in our neighborhood, sometimes you would see the dog just, like, literally carrying its own leash in its mouth and walking, because she'd be like, yeah, I think the dog's name was Mandy at the time. Mandy just got upset with me, so she just took her own leash and she's walking herself home. I was like, okay.
What?
I know. Dogs are so funny. I love dogs.
We have these little stickers that everyone has in my salon that literally says "Death by Doodles." because they're just like, if you see a doodle on your books, you're like, oh, my whole day is going to be off now.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Not all of them are awful. I've met plenty of doodles that are well trained, but they have a lot of energy, and like they're like, I think they're like smart, but they don't know what to do with it. So like, it's just it seems to be a bad combination, and they're so popular that now people are just like breeding like second and third generations and not being super selective about who they're picking to breed. So it's causing more of those like, oh, well, that's a doodle, but it looks more like a golden retriever, or like that's a doodle and it's got like super, super curly hair and it's neurotic. So like, you have to be a responsible breeder and pick good recessive traits to really get a good line of dogs. And people are just capitalizing on the fact that they're really popular right now and just breeding them irresponsibly. So we get a lot of behavioral issues.
That's interesting. Maybe one day we need to do an episode about dogs. But before we get too off track, let's get to the subject, which is another movie review. Yay! I always hate doing that because I sound so unenthusiastic when I promise you guys. I am. It's just the way maybe I'll add like background audio, coughing, whatever. But yes, so Nafis actually picked out this movie, our long-awaited my first Bollywood movie. So, yeah.
Is this your first time watching Bollywood too, Macy? Or have you seen one before?
No, I've seen one before, but I would say that this is only like my third time watching one. So I can't remember off the top of my head which ones I've seen before, but I know that I've seen at least one or two.
Gotcha. So yes, so this is our first Bollywood movie on the podcast, and Simone's first one. Do you guys know what Bollywood is?
It's just like Hollywood, but in India, right?
It's a knockoff of Hollywood, yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it knockoff, but it's just like they kind of borrowed the name and just switched out a letter.
It's just like basically their version of Hollywood, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like their Indian cinema, and then like in other countries you have Lollywood and things like that. But anyway. So we're doing a Bollywood movie called Khoobsurat, which basically means beautiful. So it's just it's a romantic comedy. That's how it's described. It was released in 2014, and it is a Disney movie. You guys could not tell already.
Disney's got their claws and everything, man.
Right? Seriously. Because, like, I was telling them before we started, like, I saw the sky and the stars, and I think at first maybe I thought it was, like, a Paramount movie, because sometimes, you know, when they start their movies, they have those stars that kind of, like, it's hard to explain. Guys, it's too early in the morning. I'm, like, tired. But if you ever see a Paramount movie, you know what I'm talking about. How every entertainment company has their own little like signature logo. Introduction. Yes,
if you grew up in the 90s, you know all of the like,
exactly.
You can hear the sounds before you even see the visuals of like all those intros.
Yes. So then when the music started, I was like, now don't tell me this is a Disney movie. And then all of a sudden it started panning out. And then you saw the little spark and then you saw the castle. I was like, Disney does like international movies? I don't think I've ever seen a non-American Disney movie before. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how many they actually do. Like they actually put the name Disney in. Like I'm sure they help produce and like put money into other like international movies, but this is the first time I've seen a Disney movie that's like said Disney like before, not like after the credits or anything.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because it's like a Disney production in corroboration with the entertainment company that produced them. I noticed that at the beginning, so it's like Disney's name is first.
Yes,
which surprising.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize it was Disney the first time that I saw it, because I'm like well attuned with Bollywood movies, so I know like the first 15 minutes don't really mean anything, so I typically just skip it. But then towards the end,
what is that?
like,
what do you mean by that?
Like it doesn't really matter, because like Bollywood movies are so long, you'll eventually get what's going on. So like I'm the type to skip things, okay? So I don't waste my time.
Okay.
But anywho, so I skipped the first part, and then I'm watching this and I'm like, the vibe is so familiar, but I couldn't really place it because like the setting was like grand, the way they did the costume and everything. And then at the end, like I realized like they had like the credits and everything, like, oh, Disney. It all makes sense now. So yeah. But they've actually started making Indian versions of a lot of like the popular Disney shows too. So that was interesting to learn.
Yeah, I've noticing we're kind of crossing into, we're kind of in this new era where like even here there's a bunch of remakes of like movies and TV shows like they're very popular like back in the early 2090s or even further, and they're remaking them, and now we're getting to the point to where there's remakes on an international board.
Mm-hmm.
Like I keep hearing that one famous Korean show Sky Castle, they're apparently supposed to be making an American version of that. We'll see how that goes. There's been other there's been other like stuff like that where they've remake. Like I remember texting Brianna. I don't remember how we got on this topic, but we mentioned that. And I mentioned the movie Old Boy, where Spike Lee made Old Boy back in 2013, which is a 2005 Korean movie of the same name. I think it's called Old Boy. Yeah, it's called Old Boy. Just stuff like that. So that's not surprising me anymore either.
There was an American remake, The Good Doctor.
And they keep saying they want to remake Train to Busan. They better not. So I will riot if I see an American remake of Train to Busan.
Oh my gosh. I think we should just let the Koreans do the zombie apocalyptic stuff because they really have mastered it.
They do a pretty good job of it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I know Macy don't watch them, but you're missing out.
I have nothing to add to that.
Listen, they make some good zombie movies, okay?
Apparently the new show that they released on Netflix, what is it called?
Today.
All of Us Are Dead, right? That's the title?
Yes. Which I heard isn't real. It's like they don't understand where they got that title from, because the Korean title, like when it's translated, it doesn't mean the same thing. And I remember that's being a big criticism of Netflix when Squid Game was really popular, how like Netflix isn't really, they're being really lazy with the subtitles as far as the translation and stuff like that, which I understand there's some stuff that's hard to translate all the way through. But even I noticed that like when I'm watching certain things on Netflix, when they translate like words that I've picked up because I'm studying it, I'm like, that's not what they said, or like that's not what that word means. So like watching this movie, I don't know if that was the same because I don't know Hindi and this is my first time really hearing it. So I'm like, oh, I hope these translations of the subtitles are like close to accurate, which kind of is. And I'm going to ask you now before I forget, is it common to switch back and forth like they were doing in that movie? Because at first it was throwing me off really badly, like when they're going from Hindi to English, and I was like,
yeah, it's super common.
It is? Okay. I was so confused.
Because you have to remember, India was colonized by the British, so there's a lot of like English word replacements for Hindi words. So it's very common to go back and forth between Hindi and English. Like I do it all the time.
Yeah. I wanted to bring that up because I don't know about you guys, but since I know you both have studied Korean a little bit more than I have, but when I watch anime or I watch K-dramas, I'm listening to what they're saying. Like I'm hearing everything, but at the same time, I'm kind of focused on the subtitles. So my inner monologue, like I can hear myself reading the subtitles. So when they were switching back and forth and there weren't any subtitles, I'm like, was I listening? I don't know if I heard what they said in English because I was so focused on reading the subtitles, and the voice in my head is a little bit louder than what I'm hearing on the screen. So like, I don't know if you, Simone, or if you had trouble with like switching back and forth, because I kind of quiet what the show is saying and listen to myself reading the subtitles. Or
I think because since I started watching, like I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch a lot of English or American shows anymore. Like I have been the past maybe 2 years watching a lot of international shows, whether it is like more anime or like Korean drama. So I think I've gotten to the point where like I have been able to do both at the same time, like read and then watch, and then also while I'm listening, especially if I'm watching Korean dramas, surprisingly like try to listen to the Korean more to see if I can understand what they're saying without really having to watch the subtitles to see if the subtitles are like accurate to what they're actually saying or not, if that makes sense.
Right. I definitely watch way more international shows now. Like I don't watch TV in general, and I've gotten much better at reading subtitles where I can like, they're in the like the bottom of the screen, but I don't need to be looking directly at them. Like I can be watching and picking up what they're saying. But like I don't always like with this movie, this was a new language for me. So I went back to like, I went back to like the way that I used to read it to where like I'm kind of more focused on the subtitles and like less listening to what they're actually like. I'm listening, but I'm not picking up the like individual words as much as
like
I
you're
would
blocking
with like
out the actual
Korean
language, but you're more focused on the
I
reading.
don't
So like
know
if it was
any of
muted,
it. Like,
you'd probably still watch it because you're just focused on reading. I get that.
Right. Where with Korean, it's like I know a lot of like the common phrases, like "Are you hungry?" "How are you feeling?" Are you know like stuff like that, or like pronouns, like I've mom, dad, sister, brother. Like I pick up on all that stuff, but I don't need to like read it. Where this, when it was switching back and forth, I was so focused on the translation that when it would switch to English, I'm like, I don't think I heard what they just said.
I get that.
I will admit they do it kind of quickly though.
It was so fast. I was like,
So
they said one
fast.
thing in Hindi and then the English. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
But that's why I had to watch it a second time.
Actually.
I was about to text you, but I was like, maybe I'll save this for the podcast because I'm like, is this an actual common thing, like in actual India, or is this like a movie thing? But it would make more sense if this is common, like
no,
a
it's
real
common.
thing.
No, like I personally do it.
And they didn't like subtitle the English either. So like
they
it would
didn't.
just
So if they
disappear.
spoke in English, it was just they spoke in English. Sometimes they did though, because there's some points where they said the exact subtitle in English.
If there was a word in the middle of the sentence that was English, they would put it. But if it was a whole sentence in English, it just wasn't subtitled. So like I would be like, oh, where'd it go? And then my brain would realize that that was English. So
actually, as a person who watches Hindi movies, that's not something that I noticed myself doing. Like, you know how you mentioned, like, you always have to train yourself to go back to English. Like, for me, it was just such an easy transition because, like, I hear it all the time. But I didn't realize it would be, like, more of a problem for someone who's, like, new to the language.
You grew up with the language, right?
Yeah.
So
I grew up with the language, but I don't know how to write it, and I don't know how to read it. I can just speak it.
Right. Well, that's kind of like my grandma. She is from Germany. She grew up there. She spent most of her, like, young adult life there, and then she moved to America. And so when she speaks, a lot of the time it's in broken German and English. And even though I would not consider myself fluent in German, but I've heard her speak it so much that I pretty much know what she's saying. But she switches back and forth between German and English like nothing. So like I'm used to that, but it's a language that I was around and that I heard. So that makes sense that you wouldn't have a problem with that because, like you're so used to the switch. And by the end of the movie, I was getting the hang of it. But at first I was like, I need to go back. I didn't hear what they said.
That first 10 to 15 minutes, I was kind of like, what? That might be just like a bilingual thing maybe. And that's why, like, especially with studying another language, I have to... I don't know if they tell you that or not, because that's a point where I have to get, like, when I'm learning the language, I want to try to get to the point where I don't have to rely of going back to English to see if I understand it. And I can just hear the original language and be able to understand it. So that also is taking a while. Not to mention that I always stop back and forth and I'm trying to do like 3 at once on my own time. But,
Well, what 3 are you doing?
Well, my main focus right now, because I've been studying it for so long, is Korean. But like I would like to know Japanese a little bit, and I always wanted to. That one's a little bit harder because when they start getting to the kanji characters, I'm kind of, because it's Chinese characters, but like pronounced like in that still confuses me. And kind of want to go back to try to learn Spanish again, even though I feel like high school kind of like not turned me off to Spanish, but like especially where I live, like in being in Florida, we have a lot of Hispanics here, and I know in my old job, like when we have Spanish, like guests come in, like I always wanted to try to like speak to them in Spanish so they understood, but like I barely know anything, so it's just stuff
Spanish
like that.
would definitely be the most useful here, I think.
Yeah.
Just because it's so common.
It's on my list too. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. I was just gonna say a lot of places will even pay you more at your job if you can speak Spanish because you can accommodate more people. So because it's so common here.
Yeah.
Like you would think Spanish should be my second that I want to learn, but just because, like I said, I've been studying Korean for so long and I feel like I've learned so much, I don't want to lose what I've learned. So I'm nowhere comfortable with speaking it, but like I can read it pretty well and I can understand like the individual words a little bit better, but I can't translate it that quickly. So I just don't want to lose my progress.
Pretty good position to be in.
Yeah, I still have a long way to go. Like if I'm probably at like first grade level, if I'm being honest. But it's better than nothing.
For us, that would be considered intermediate, though, because you're not beginner.
No, I'd say I'm probably between like advanced beginner and like intermediate. Like I still have trouble trying to form sentences on my own, but I pretty much know the basic sentences now, and I know a couple complex sentences, but like you try to talk to me in a paragraph and you lose me. So anything more than like 3 consecutive sentences, I'm kind of like, okay, wait.
Keep it short and sweet.
And one, slow down, because like I feel like every other language besides English speaks so fast. So that's another thing too. I'm not used to the fast pace. But I don't know if that's because I'm a native English speaker. I think we speak slow and we might actually speak fast. Like if there's anyone that's listening to us who's not that strong in English might think now that I'm speaking pretty fast, but I don't think I am. It's just one of those things.
They say English is the hardest language to learn, but I think that's because of all of like the double meaning words. You know what I mean?
Structure
like,
of
there's
it.
like 3 words that are exactly the same that all mean different things.
There, and there.
Yeah, I think
one.
Like the range of words is like really big, but English itself, I don't know.
Yeah, English itself is pretty tough. And then when you kick in like the slang words, it's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like when I speak to people that don't understand English that well, I have to remember, like, I don't realize I speak in so much slang than I actually do. So I have to catch myself there. And especially just like, I don't know if I ever told you this, Nafis, but I remember one time working at the library and these 2 girls made like, you know, a reservation for one of the study things that we had. So I was like, okay, did you like book a session in the study rooms? And they didn't understand what I meant when I said book the room. So that also is kind of slang in itself.
But how else would you make that? Or you would probably just say, did you make a reservation? Yeah.
Reserve.
Yeah. So. Okay. That's true. That's something that you have to like think about to catch yourself.
Because they were getting confused. They thought I meant like the actual books like behind me. So they didn't know what I meant by like, oh, you booked time for the study room. I forgot what they called it.
I can see why that would be confusing. It's like, I'm here for a study room. Why is she asking me about books?
Why? Yeah.
That makes sense.
And it took me a while.
Oh, all right. So going back to the main point, I'm just going to give a short synopsis.
I mean, it all goes with the movie, though.
Huh?
No, Macy's like off with our language discourse. I'm like, but it still goes because we're talking about an international movie.
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's true. So
yeah, we had a point there. We're just bad at tangents.
Yeah, we are. We go on like 10-minute
tangents
to 15-minute tangents.
Are what make conversations fun, guys. Okay,
right.
So the more, the merrier.
What keeps them interesting?
Yes. Actually, I didn't know this, but this movie is based off of a movie that was made in the 1980s. So it's a loose remake of that movie. What else? So basically,
do you know the movie or like if it is American
it's
movie?
It's the same name. No, it's an Indian movie.
Name.
Okay.
They just remade it for modern times.
Gotcha.
Yeah, kind of like how they did with what is that one? Romeo and Juliet. What's another one? Cinderella.
They've made like 50 million
right.
Cinderellas, Beauty and the Beast.
Another Cinderella story. There's like 4 iterations of it.
Yeah. So kind of like that. Typical Disney thing.
Apparently they're in the process of remaking Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs and The Little Mermaid.
But they already made a live action movie of that.
When?
It's called Mirror Mirror. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I actually like it more than some of the other Disney like live action movies.
Mirror. Wait, when did that come out? Mirror, Mirror. That sounds familiar.
Was that recent?
No.
Oh.
It was actually one of the first live action Disney movies, and everybody forgets about it. I'm like, it's probably one of the better ones.
Okay. Anyway.
So,
interesting.
Not that it's important, but I like it.
All right. So basically what this movie is about, it's about a physiotherapist who goes by the name of Dr. Millie. She has a very long name called Mrinali Chakravarti, but she goes by Millie for short. And then we also have the other main lead, which is Yuvraj Vikram Singh Rathore. He is the prince. So basically this story is just a story about royalty. So a normal person meets the royal family, basically. The king, he's paralyzed from the waist down, so they hire her basically as like, not a last resort, but like kind of like basically like a last resort, because all the other doctors would like run away because he's so tough to deal with. So it's just a story of how she interacts with that family and gets to know them and eventually falls for the prince, who we will call Vicky just to keep things simple. All right, so my first question is, what did you guys think of the movie? So we'll start with Simone, since this is your first one.
Oh, do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, maybe I need to see... Well, I don't know if this is going to go into a later question you have, but I'll just answer it anyway. Maybe I need to see another Bollywood movie that's not produced by Disney, but it did remind me of a lot of just like Disney films in general, especially like early 2000 and late 90s, where it's like quirky girl ends up somehow getting involved with either a very rich or, like you said, royalty. Sure, that's the word. Family, you know, she comes and causes chaos because most of them are like stuffy, or you have that one child who seems like the outsider. The mother is very strict. Sometimes you see the father, which in this case is the king. Sometimes you don't. In this case, like, her job was to help the king, so he was pretty important in it. You know, and then the love interest is part of the family. They don't like each other at first, and then events happen to where they fall in love, and then she makes the family all better for the best, where they like open up and be like normal human beings, not like stiff robots. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Definitely a little bit more cornier, not gonna lie, of like other Disney movies I've seen. Like, it was good cheese, but it was still cheesy. And I had to prepare myself for the extra cheese when I saw the word Disney. So...
Now, do you think if you hadn't seen the word Disney at the beginning of it, would you still feel that it's like Disney corny? Or did like the idea of it being a Disney movie affect that decision?
Well, I always think romantic comedies are corny in themselves. I do think that Disney does make it a little bit extra, because even like no matter the rating, they try to make it still, I wouldn't say like family geared, but there's just something about like Disney where they still try to make it lighthearted. Like, I remember that was a big criticism, like when Marvel got bought out by Disney and like all the new Marvel movies. If you notice, they do try to make them a little bit more like not cornier, but there are areas where they try to make it more lighthearted in a sense. So kind of like things in that nature. I don't know if I had any more else to say. Maybe if you guys start talking, I will think of more. But that was mostly my...
What did you think of the language? Because this is probably the first time you heard Hindi, right?
It is.
Was it like... How did you feel like listening to the language? Because I know there are some languages I'm just like, oh my god, this is like hard to listen to. Did you get that vibe?
No, I didn't think it was that bad. Like I said, I think since I started watching, especially with my anime, because like when I first started watching anime, I was watching it in dub, but when I started watching it in its original form and then watching K-dramas, like I don't get like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not disturbed. I don't get distracted if I'm watching something in a language I've never heard before. It does take me a while for my brain to get used to it, because I kind of want to focus on what they're saying more than the words, but then like give me a good like 10 to 15 minutes and I'll start kind of zoning it out and just like focusing on both. So there are times where I'm like listening to what they're saying and then reading, like that whole discussion we had at the beginning. It just takes me a while, but doesn't really bother me that much. It was interesting because, like I said, I never heard it before. And especially with that language, I've never heard a language where they switch back and forth from English to their original language like that. Like, even when I watch K-dramas, maybe every now and then they'll say like a Korean word that's like borrowed from English, but they still make it sound Korean, to where this one they were going full on like English and with the pronunciation back to their language.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing that was throwing me off.
Right. I didn't think the language was hard to listen to, and coming from someone who like, I don't really understand like any of the languages that I watch other things in, and like I feel like it had like a lot of more like sharper like syllables and stuff. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like Korean's kind of a softer language, and this language is a little bit more sharp is the word I want to use. But I've watched a couple of Thai dramas, and their language also has that like sharper syllable sounds. So I didn't find it distracting at all because I'd watched those previously, and then like I listen to German all the time, and that language is really aggressive and hard to listen to. So like I didn't find the language distracting. And then, like, overall, I liked it. I found the main character a little bit annoying in, like, the first 20 minutes.
There were certain times where I found her annoying. Like, why do you always keep tripping? Like,
we'll get to that, Simone. Hold on.
Okay. Sorry.
But overall, she grew on me. And by the end of the movie, I was laughing out loud. So to me, if a movie can make me laugh, it's a good movie.
That's a good statement. But yeah, I was going to ask you guys next if you guys had favorite characters you found annoying.
The mother, the queen.
Yeah, she was kind of annoying.
She was like doing too much sometimes.
I found her acting so hilarious because she's like so high strung, stuck up, that when she like her initial meeting with Millie was really funny, especially that first dinner where she was just doing whatever and the queen looked like she was ready to have a heart attack. It was so funny. But yeah, I also found Millie kind of annoying too at first. I'm like, this girl just cannot read her surroundings. Like, what is she doing? But then over time,
very bad at reading her atmosphere.
But over time, like, you kind of realize. Oh, here's one thing. In Bollywood, because the background that she comes from is from Punjab. That's a different state in India. So like the Bollywood narrative, that's typical. They come across as the typical bubbly, free-spirited, energetic girl. So that's the kind of character she was portraying. So
okay, I was actually going to ask you that because I remember at the beginning of the movie, the queen did say something before they met her, like when they were talking about, oh, you're gonna have a new doctor, and they said where she's from, and then she made a comment like, I hope she's from the South Side. I was like, oh, is that like,
I'm not
how there's certain.
Like, I know certain states have, like, the certain characteristics, like people who are from Punjab, which is where Millie's mom is from. If you could not tell, they're, like, loud, obnoxious, you know, like, in your face. But, like, Rajasthan, which is where the royal family's from, they're more, like, sophisticated. They're more classy because they have that, like, royal lineage going on. But, yeah, so different parts of India have, like, a different vibe. So it's basically the clashing of two different lifestyles, I guess. But yeah, going back to the characters. So like upper class and lower class, basically. It's upper class and middle class in this case because she is, a doctor, so.
True.
But yeah, going back to what you were going to say, Simone.
I said lower middle class?
I don't think they're lower.
No.
She's just quirky, so I guess that's probably why she comes off that way. But no, I don't think they're lower. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, because at one point, don't they have, like, helpers, like, cleaning their house and, like, serving them, too? It's just not as grand.
That's very common in India. So you don't have to be, like, a high class for that. Yeah.
Because, like, here, I can't afford a maid. You know what I mean? Like, I can't afford to have somebody come help me clean my house. So to me, I'm like, oh, they're doing good.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that's common in other places, though, besides, like, America, where, like, it's not uncommon to have people help you around like the house, right?
No, it's not uncommon. It's like nowadays it's so common to the point where like if you don't have somebody helping you, it's like, oh, you're lesser well off. So
oh, that must be nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, India has a lot of different hierarchy systems, so it's not fun to talk about. They literally
That's
have a
fine.
cast. They literally have a cast called the Nobodies, and so it's kind of embarrassing sometimes. But that's a different discussion for a different day.
Okay, we don't have to get too much into it. We just talk. We bring up the politics because sometimes we need to, but we're not trying to discuss them.
Yeah,
It gives context to why she was afraid of certain things, like characteristics that she might have considering where she came from.
Yeah, that would make her stand out and things like that.
Exactly.
I did think it was a little bit over the top. I'm like, I think I would be embarrassed to act up in front of royalty, even if that was my true personality. I think first impressions, I would have calmed myself down a little bit.
Yeah, but even if they weren't royalty, I don't know you guys like that, so.
I was gonna ask you guys, you know how she went around the whole place just taking pictures of herself, touching everything?
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't touch anything.
I don't know if I would touch everything, but if I did see something, pictures, I'm not gonna lie, I might take pictures, be make sure no one's around and take a quick snip, oh, I'm in the palace. I don't know if I'd do it selfie though, just in case. Can't show the face.
Right. Or the fact when she first got there, she just rolled around on the ground. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that.
Oh, no, you're too much. You're a doctor. Where's your sense of decorum?
Yeah, and that's why I didn't know if there was an influence from Disney, because I don't remember if I learned this theory, and I don't remember what the theory is called. I don't remember if I learned it in a film class I used to take or an art class, but there's a certain theme in movies like that where you have the main character and the reason they stick out is because as you notice her clothing, it was over the top and so different compared to everyone else, and then everyone around here is kind of I wouldn't say monotone, but if you look at it color wise, they're not as bright as far as either clothing or set edit wise as she is, and that's called something, and I don't remember what it was called, and it kept bothering me because it's supposed to point out how she stands out.
It's not
from
called
everyone.
Spotlighting, is it?
I don't think it's spotlighting, but I
don't know why
remember
that term came into my head, but
I think it might, if you took an art class, maybe you learned it in an art class, because I remember that being pointed out. The reason I watched Edward Scissorhands was to point that out, to point out how he's so dark. And Tim Burton's used as a reference for
contrasting.
It a lot. Something like that, but there's an actual another term for it. I'd have to look it up. How he's black and white, all the dark colors, and all his surroundings are bright colors around him. But it's the opposite of if he was the only one that was stood out in colors and everything else around him is dull.
Right. It is contrasting, but I get what you saying about there's probably a better a proper term for it. Right. But that's all she's just contrasting their more muted colors with her outgoing colors and her outgoing personality.
Exactly. So just something like that also stood out to me.
There's no self-awareness there.
No, it really wasn't.
But
come on, girl, we can do better.
Disney main characters have absolutely no self-awareness, so
yeah,
they can just do whatever they want and not get in trouble. If that's what if it was an artifact? You can't just go to an art museum and touch things; you get arrested.
Right. It was so funny too because there's a scene where she's taking pictures and the palace was open for visiting hours.
She was sitting
and
in
the queen
throne.
again was about to have a heart attack. Oh yeah.
You don't just step over the red velvet rope and touch things,
right?
In any setting.
I personally would never do something like that. I'd be oh wow, palace, great. And then just wait for everybody else to leave.
I would be super anxious about not touching anything. I would be the opposite of not wanting to disturb anything.
Mm-hmm. But what did you guys think of the main lead, the guy lead?
Honestly, kind of boring.
He was a little bored.
I think that was the point, though. I think he was supposed to be boorish.
But that boring though, I almost didn't really see their chemistry in a way either, to be honest.
I was gonna point that out. That was one of my things that throughout the movie you kind of see him sneak peeking, watching her and what she's doing and what she's saying, and I see his progression of falling in love with her, but I don't really see her progression of falling in love with him, because okay, he's super handsome. Like, that's all I really got from her.
What else?
And he saved her from kidnappers one time. But, like, other than that, like, he didn't really do a lot to, like, make her fall in love with him. Mm-hmm. So I was, like, confused about that. I'm like, okay, I get his side of it.
The only thing I would kind of see is towards the end. We're getting into spoilers, guys, now, just to let you know.
Yes.
Towards the end and also I was going to ask you, Nafis, like, I know he's a prince, but, like, I guess he also has a job. So, like, is his job, like, in hotellery? Since he's trying to convince that one guy to sell his palace, and he said he wanted to turn it.
I think it's just, like, a family business, right?
I don't think it's in hotels.
Like, he doesn't work for somebody. It's just
the royalty have family.
Yeah, I don't think it's in hotels specifically. But you know how his family owns, like, a whole palace, and then they put part of it off for, like, visitors as, like, tourism, things like that. So I guess their job in that area is to highlight, like, the tourist area. So I guess, yes, you could say his job is in tourism.
Okay. I was just going to point out, like, when they have another meeting and he tells the guy, like, he doesn't have to sell his palace. Like, that's what he was worried about. Right. They can be, like, partnerships. And basically being kind and saying, like, he can keep his property. So, like, that was the only way where I can see, like, where she was like, oh, like, he's a good guy after all, and not trying to steal this guy's business from him. But that's the only scene that I would have think that.
It was more like, oh my gosh, he listened to me.
Yeah.
Now proceeds to fall in love.
Right. But I thought about that, but I feel like she was already in love with him before that. So does that even count?
She was.
When she fell on him in the book, the library?
So.
Which, if she actually fell, she would have been fine.
Right?
Similar.
It was not that high up. Come on, girl. A little hurt, a little like, ow. Like, you're fine, girl. You didn't have to do all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only reason I didn't count that as one of the ticks towards him is, like, I felt like she was already in love at that point, so that was just adding to it. But the initial attraction, I felt, was based more on physical, which is fine. But I didn't see her progression as much.
No, I agree.
That was my only thing.
I agree.
I would have liked to see more of him interact. They didn't, and I guess you can like assume that they're talking in between these scenes and, like, getting to know each other because it's like a continuation of time. But we don't really see them talking all that much. Like, they talk for 2 seconds and then she has to run off somewhere.
Yeah.
With telepathy.
Yeah, but...
No, I need them to physically talk because I don't care what you're thinking. It doesn't correlate.
I was gonna ask you guys what y'all thought about that, the whole internal dialogue that they had.
That was interesting.
It was interesting the way they did it because, like, when I watch international movies, they do, like, internal monologues more than we do, and I don't know if that is a language thing or not. But just the way they were doing it, it seemed like so quick. Like, sometimes when they had their inner monologues, I was kind of confused because I thought they were saying this stuff out loud, and I was like, oh wait, no, he said that in his head. So
I feel like it makes more sense though, because in a lot of, like, our shows or, like, other dramas, to, like, add context to what they're thinking for the audience purpose, they, like, after the person leaves, they, like, say out loud what they're thinking. But I feel like most people just talk to themselves in their head. Like, they don't just talk to themselves out loud in a random setting about what they just did. Like, oh, that was so stupid. Why did I do that? Like, I don't say that out loud. Yeah. So I feel like it makes more sense.
I mean, sometimes I do if I'm by myself. I'm not going to lie.
Well, okay.
I'll whisper it.
You're different. But I don't.
Okay, fine then. Let me be different.
I'll do it every so often, but I rarely have a monologue with myself out loud after the fact that I've done something or said something that was stupid, or not necessarily stupid, but that I regret. So I felt like it made more sense that they were saying it in their heads, what they were actually thinking, because that's what I would do.
Especially, like, during conversations, like, I feel that's real as well. Like, a real thing someone would do, like, when you're talking to someone. Like, sometimes when she'd be like, oh, he's a snob, and then she'll say something, or she'll say something in her head. She's like, why did you say that? Like, that was very realistic to me. So
rather than, like, turning around and, like, doing a cringe face or whatever.
I just found it, like, the only thing he ever, like, always said was troublemaker. Oh my god, she's problematic. Da 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 da. But she had, like all these different adjectives for him.
And that was another thing I was going to point out. Not only their chemistry, but, like, the fiance. What was the point of her? We saw her once, and, like, she was barely there, and, like, you didn't understand the relationship, because I was like, okay, is this an arranged marriage? Like, do you actually like her?
I think it was arranged. That's what it was.
Okay, because like I said, I don't know the culture like that either. So now it's like, we don't know their chemistry, because she took the breakup very well.
I was gonna say,
she was like, all right, dude, that's fine. We're not engaged anymore. Cool. I was like, wait, what?
Maybe I'm gonna find my own adventure. Who responds like that?
Because then I was like, and like, I don't.
Someone who wasn't in love with the person they were engaged with.
Even with the family, like if it was arranged, like you never saw Kira with his parents, or like the parents never mentioned her at all. Just like when they realized he was falling in love with Millie, like just like, remember you're engaged. And I'm like, well, do you guys even like Kira?
Yeah. But I do agree, though, that they could have explored their original relationship a little bit more.
Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more, like, interaction or development, like, especially on her side, because I could see him falling in love with her. Like, I could, how she was interacting with his dad, how she was interacting with others, how she just said what was on her mind. I got that coming from someone who didn't feel like he could.
The family, too, like, get over the accident that happened, which is the main reason why no one talks to each other anymore. So, and like they said, like she was bringing the light and laughter back to their family. So his point of view, I can understand, but like, it's a good thing you brought that up, Macy, because I didn't even think about that. Like, why? What?
Why does she like him?
About
He's
him
boring. If
Yeah.
she's so outgoing and like says what's on her mind, you'd think she'd want someone similar. But they say opposites attract, so maybe she doesn't want someone like that. But I was like, I don't understand why she's falling for him. Because I, kind of, I think we all put ourselves in like the shoes of the main character. I'm like, I find this person boring. Like, yes, he's attractive, but like...
Kind of boring.
Which is interesting too, because like at the beginning when you saw like when she was having that conversation with her mom at the dinner table, when she was praying like she would get married, and like you saw a quick like snap of like her past relationships, and almost kind of seemed like she was fitting herself to be like the person she was dating. So when she was younger, she didn't really do that with what are we calling him? Vicky? Did she call him Vikram or something like that? Oh,
I thought
Vicky.
it was Viku.
I thought it was Vikram.
Vicky. The name is
Or
Vikram,
Viku.
but like she
Viku.
called him all sorts of names.
I never
Snob.
heard her. Yeah, mostly snob.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, do you think she was
But
necessary
still.
for this family? Do you think she was a good fit? Is a good fit?
for her job and what she did, for her job and like what she did as far as helping the king recover, yes. Like storyline as far as falling in love, not really. She could have just been like the doctor, family friend or something. Like,
Yeah, I felt like the love story was more of like a side story. And like the main thing was just helping get this family back on their feet. And then they just kind of happened to fall in love at the end, which is fine. But I liked him more at the end because like that very last scene of him like finally speaking his mind, I'm like, okay, he does have a personality.
Yeah.
It's okay now.
I don't know. I didn't like the way he did speak to her mom, though. That was a little
True.
like, I understand you finding your voice, but the things you were saying, like, all right, dude, hold it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like him high-fiving her dad was like,
Only when she like agreed with him, I was okay with it. Like when she was like, okay, mom, just say yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah. It was, I liked him a little bit more at the end too. I'm like, oh wow, he actually did something instead of just say, this is not how our family is, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it was nice to see.
yeah. I was also curious because like it felt like, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but would their relationship be appropriate in like real world? Like would his parents be perfectly fine with them being together even though they technically weren't on the same like class level?
Would depend.
and are there still royal families like this in today's time? Okay.
Yeah, so there are still royal families like this in today's time. And as far as like if the relationship would be appropriate, it depends on the parents. Because I know that they're like, even if they're not royalty, even if there's like a huge like difference, like let's say an Indian person wanted to marry like an African American person or someone who's Caucasian, there's still that issue. It's very similar. But it just really depends on the parents, like if they're okay with it, if they like the girl or boy, whoever. It really just depends. It's situation by situation.
I appreciated that they like. I feel like that trope a lot is like, oh, you can't marry her unless she's a princess, you know, like that trope is very common. So I appreciated that not being in this film. But I was also curious, I'm like, is that realistic? Or is it like, are they just like,
it's actually very normal.
Not bringing that trope in.
No,
isn't that also another Disney trope where it's like a common girl marries into a royal family and turns her into a princess?
Oh, that's right. She does become a princess in this.
Because she technically becomes a princess, Macy.
Yeah.
She's married to the family.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but that trope always exists. They get through it. They always win in the end because then it wouldn't be a happy ever after. But they always have to go through the like trials and tribulations of the parents not agreeing because they're not on the same level.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I find annoying because I know it's going to work out. But
that,
like,
honestly, because that would have been annoying. Yeah.
That's what I like. I appreciate that they didn't do that, but I was also curious about like whether that would play out in like real world or not. But I'm glad that it would if like they can, you know, when their parents over and stuff. And it felt like he was having to convince her mom more than anything. So. Yeah.
That is true.
Well, I think that was also because when the queen found out how much she actually helped the king and like that miraculously moment when he stood up, and I was like, I think that kind of...
Right. But I felt like it was more about her straight up personality rather than like her not being good enough. You know what I mean? Like she just didn't like her because she thought she was a bad influence, not because she was a lower class or anything. So I like that once she realized the truth, she didn't take that long to come around. Like, it's like, okay, I misunderstood.
After her daughter, when she ran away, when she came back and told her, like, Millie's not the reason why I ran away. So that whole conversation as well.
Yeah.
Which I wish I saw more of the daughter as well.
Me too. I thought she was too quiet in this.
I feel like there was a whole growing arc that we dismissed of her. I mean, and that was another thing with this movie, like it was long, but I almost felt like it was strangely fast paced, and I don't know if in a good way. And sometimes I was like, is this like the editing or just the way it's written out? Because like there's sometimes I feel like you would see a scene and you just like cut abruptly, and I was like, wait, I feel like I missed something.
No, I felt the pacing was pretty
just trying to fit a bunch of stuff
into one
short amount of time.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten so used to watching like 10+ hour dramas now.
Yeah.
Where they like break up 10 times and get back together 10 times. And like there's so much drama that I'm like frustrated with them that this was just so fast. I'm like, they weren't even mad at each other for like 15 whole minutes. So we're good.
Yeah. But like movie time, that was like what, 2 to 3 weeks or something. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, like in the movie, you kind of see the different parenting styles and how that affects like the kids. So did you have anything that you noticed or wanted to say about that? Because the mom, like Millie's mom, she kind of takes a jib at the queen, saying that like, oh, because I'm more open-minded and I'm like more free, at least my kids don't run away and all that.
Why did she tell the queen that they kissed?
Huh?
I was upset. Why did she tell the queen that? I was like, wait a minute, you don't even know if she knows that? Like,
yeah.
I guess that kind of goes into your question where that you just asked us, where we see in their relationship, Millie and her mom are more open with each other. Like they literally tell each other everything. Like I was surprised she told her mom when they kiss, with her mom knowing like he's engaged and all that, to where like everything in the royal family's all like keep to ourselves if we have a problem. You know, it's not really, I won't say that big of a deal, but I think there was a point, I don't remember exactly what he said, but Vikram or the queen said something like, if it doesn't pertain to all of us, then it's not important in that sense. I don't remember the exact wordage or the scene that it was, but it was something in that realm. So I'm not sure if that plays in the factor or not. I was just surprised she said that.
Yeah.
But I guess that shows into the dynamic of, and I don't know if that is like a class thing or not, or just the way that their parents' personalities was, that they raised their kids to be either more open with them or not open with them, or feel comfortable enough to be open with them. So, I mean, as you can see, the daughter ran away and she says she was planning this escape for a year. So
the great escape.
Yeah, I feel like there's no perfect style of parenting. Like, it kind of just depends on the people involved. So, like, but if I had to pick one, I would pick Millie's parents, only because I have a very open relationship with my mom. So, like, when we talk freely, we talk about everything. And I feel like if I'm in a bad spot, I feel very comfortable to go to her. I don't feel like the need to, like, escape or run away or anything. So, and I do feel like overbearing parents can suffocate their children, and that they just ruin their own relationship with them. So, but I think there can be a middle ground. Like, you don't have to be best friends with your parents to still, like, respect them and be able to go to them when you need things, and them not be also, like, your best friend and, like, they're not even a parent figure. Like, I think there's a good, like, middle ground somewhere in there, but no parenting relationship is perfect. So if I had to pick one, I'd pick Millie's parents over the Queen and Kings, because they just didn't really have a relationship at all. So
I think that's, like, one of the messages, too, that the movie was kind of trying to portray, like, because, like, they come from royalty, and royalty typically has, like, that old school mentality, whereas Millie is more modern, more of a modern day girl. So I guess they're just trying to show that, because, like, in India, that is a pretty big thing to, like, oh, you have to be respectful around your parents, you can't say too much, you can't do too much. That's slowly starting to change. But I guess the movie was kind of portraying that, like, having a more open relationship is the better way to go, because then kids are less likely to do, you know, really drastic things. So,
and, like, I don't know if this is, like, a culture thing as well, when it comes to the children and, like, firstborn, secondborn, and all that. But, like, there's another thing where you kind of saw, like, they were just so hung up on their first child, like the eldest son being killed, that they kind of forgot that they had 2 other children. Like, they didn't really treat them like their children, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Again, I don't know if that's another culture thing or not.
I think that's more of a grief thing.
That is a grief thing?
I don't think it's more of a culture thing.
Well, because, you know, there are some cultures where, like, the eldest child is, like, also depending on, like, the gender, where they hold certain roles. So that's why I wasn't sure. So.
No, I don't think it's a cultural thing, because I have seen many families that equally value all their kids, but there are families obviously that value, like, the oldest or the youngest more. But I think their particular situation is more of a grief thing. Like, he couldn't get over the guilt that he wasn't able to do something for his son, therefore he wasn't able to move on. But it took somebody like Millie to help him realize, like, hey, I still have 2 alive, well-grown kids that I need to, you know, take care of.
One who's still growing, like, she's 17. Come on.
But,
I don't know how old Millie and Vic or Vic, who is in this.
Like,
they
early
don't say
20s,
ages, so
mid-20s probably.
Mid-20s, okay.
But yeah.
Well, she's a doctor, so she had to go through a bunch of years of schooling, so you'd think she'd be a little bit older.
Well,
if we're being realistic,
that is true. So let's say mid-20s, late 20s.
Late 20s, yeah.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Maybe even early 30s too.
Possibly.
Not that they have to be the same age. He could be younger than her.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
I don't think they ever addressed that either. I don't think they did.
It doesn't really matter.
Because they said the accident was... Well, I was also trying to think, because, like, the accident with the king and their eldest son, they said he was 20 and it was 10 years ago. So that's what I'm trying to put ages to timelines.
Oh, that's right.
So, but he's younger than the son who died.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the middle child. If the daughter is 17 now, so when the accident happened, she was probably like 7. So I was trying to figure out how old he is if he was younger.
He can't be older than 30, so maybe mid to late 20s. If that's the case. If his son was 20 and it's been 30 years, he would be 30. So he has to be
it was
younger.
10 years. I thought they said 10 years.
20 and plus 10 years would be 30. Like, he would be 30 now. That's what I meant. I don't know what I said, but I meant that.
Okay.
So he has to be younger than 30 because his brother would only be 30. His older brother.
Not that it's important. I'm just that person who's like, I have to kind of put it together, because sometimes that, like, it, like, makes sense to me in a way, and then sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes, you know, especially now, no matter what age you are to be acting a certain way, but sometimes it's important to the plot. Not always. Sometimes it is. Apparently it's important to me for some odd reason.
You know what also kind of bothered me? That didn't really bother me the first time that I was watching it, because the first time I was watching it, I was naive, Nafis. I didn't look into things as deeply.
Is this like when we did What If when you were like, when you watched this when you were younger? Okay. And now looking at it again, you're like, huh.
Okay, Homeboy basically cheated. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that is one of your... No, he did.
He basically did. And he kept saying, like, this is not right. We both were wrong. And then he just continues doing what he, like, did. Like, hello.
And then his friend at the restaurant's gonna tell him, don't say anything.
Right?
Like, bro.
You are a bad friend. Ugh. I'm glad she took it lightly, but still, like, if she was, could have just ended it early if she was going to take it that well.
Right. This is kind of going off topic, but still pertaining to the movie. That scene where Millie gets quote unquote kidnapped by those fake guys. And first of all, I knew it was wrong because when she was standing there and they brought out a mat and then the one guy behind her in red, those bug eyes, you knew like, okay, something is like not right here. But when he saw it was the prince and like they knew each other, who was that guy? Was he someone that worked at the house?
I think because like in that area.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because like in that area, they're a well-known family. Like everybody knows them. So I think when because
he's told him he's like she's a guest. Like what? And he's like, I thought she was just a normal tourist. So that's why I was confused. I'm like, does he work at the house? Maybe.
I don't think so. Maybe like they see each other going around, but everyone pretty much knows who he is. But I don't think he knew who the kidnapper guy was.
I thought he did. That's why he's like, when he first said something, he's like, he said his name and then he realized it was the prince.
Well, typically,
so I figured they knew each other.
Well, in that area, you don't really mess with the prince. Yeah. So if you're a guest of the prince, then you're also somebody that you shouldn't mess with. So I guess that was what he was trying to get at.
Okay.
But no, I don't think they knew each other.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Speaking of that scene, though, that was absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're a doctor. You need to have some sort of... I'm telling you, this girl just doesn't know how to read her environment. Like...
This goes into the part where we don't like it. Because, like, really? If this wasn't, like, a kid-friendly movie, this could have been a lot worse. We might have never seen her again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this is our first victim in our kidnapping business.
I won't lie. When I initially saw them bring out the mattress, I thought something else.
God,
I thought this was a different kind of audition. I'm like,
they bought her food.
My mind went like to the worst place possible.
Yeah. No, and then I was like, this is a Disney movie. They wouldn't show that on. That's not what's happening.
No.
So
crazy. That part was insane.
Now that I think about it, like her overall character was just so ridiculous. Like when he got the phone call,
she's so naive and not in a good way.
When he got the phone call, he was like, the stupid girl got herself kidnapped.
Yeah.
I just found that
in 30 minutes.
Hilarious.
I gave you 30 minutes. How did you get kidnapped in 30 minutes?
Right.
So
how did he fall in love with her again?
Right. I don't know.
I don't know.
He's boring and she's not. That's why.
I guess the adventure of always saving your partner from being kidnapped. I guess if you're into that type of stuff,
the adrenaline, can't beat it.
No,
the last 30 seconds was all sarcasm, guys. By the way.
Oh yeah.
I hope they understand. Right. I think if you're a regular listener at this point, you understand when we're being sarcastic. Other hard thing,
going back to our initial conversation about English, is sarcasm. I can understand how hard that can be to pick up because you might take everything literally when you're first learning a language.
I got when they were being sarcastic.
Yeah, I don't know if sarcasm's as strong as in other languages like it is in English.
Yeah. But we pretty much answered all of our questions. And I guess the last one that I had was, how do you think this compared to American movies?
I feel like you said in the beginning, it is very similar to some of the Disney movies that I grew up with. So I didn't think that it was all that different. I mean, like, you've got your stereotypical characters, you've got these outgoing personalities, besides like the language and the clothing and the scenery. It could easily be an American movie too, just in a different language and a different setting. So
what did y'all think about the musical, like the songs that came up in between?
I thought they were interesting. I actually really liked them. Yeah. My favorite scene of the whole movie was the little party that they had in the kitchen. Yes. And then because this is the first time I'm watching a movie and they actually put like the lyrics translations of a song that's being played. And like, when I was reading it, I'm like, is this song really about a trade?
Yeah, they were actually talking about a trade.
Okay. Sure they were. But okay.
They were relating it to something else, though.
Yeah. I know. That's why I said that, but still, I like the music. And then, like, when you guys first told me about Bollywood, I thought it was gonna be more like I thought there's gonna be more songs. So, like, I kept sitting there anticipating, waiting for like the breakout of dancing and music, like every maybe 15 or 30 minutes. So that's why when it wasn't happening, I was like, wait, I thought this was. This is my first Bollywood movie. So, like, you guys keep telling me, like, they break out in the song, like, every 5 minutes. So that's what I was expecting, and it didn't happen. That was really the only scene.
This one is more of, like, a Western meets Eastern type of Bollywood movie, even though it has a lot of Indian vibes to it. But, yeah, typical Bollywood movies do have a lot more songs in them. Yeah.
Okay, because it's really just the kitchen scene. You heard sometimes, like, if she's playing music or, like, if they're doing flashbacks of like them looking at each other longing or want, and then really just the end credits of, I don't know if that was their wedding or if they were just at an event, but that was really it as far as like musical breakdowns.
Yeah. This one didn't have that much. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that ending credit of that was also very corny. Like when it was some scenes of like them dancing and then her and then whoever that guy was sitting in the chair. Like,
trying to keep it family friendly, guys.
Like the end credits are more like reasonable to have something so corny because you're like, okay, we're not really in like the universe anymore. Where her corniness, like in the real world, is like, okay, this is so over the top. And then the end credits is like, okay, we're all acting crazy now. So
yeah. But yeah, I agree with Macy. Like, it didn't really seem like much of a difference. And again, I don't know if because it was a Disney movie or not. That's why I said at the very beginning when we started recording, if I watched another Bollywood movie that wasn't Disney, maybe I would see the difference. But this one, I didn't really see that much of a difference. It does remind me of early rom-coms of like American rom-coms from the 90s and early 2000s, especially ones for like kids that they would show like playing on TV. Like, it reminded me of a Disney Channel original movie they used to play.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with
that's
that.
what I would say, too. A Disney Channel movie.
Yeah. Like, I got, like, heavy, like, what? Was it Cinderella that Hilary Duff was in?
Yeah.
Like, that
it's
movie
called
or, like,
another
the
Cinderella
Princess
story.
Yeah, another Cinderella. What's the one that Selena Gomez is called, though? I thought that was called Another Cinderella. They're both
it's just Cinderella Story. It's not another.
But it is, though.
Okay, but it reminded me of movies.
It is, yeah. It's all the same trope, because nothing's original anymore.
Like that, yeah, and then like Princess Diaries, all that good stuff. So.
It reminded me of Princess Diaries a lot.
I was thinking of Princess Diaries when I was watching this.
Even the scene I mentioned when she's like splayed out on the grass, I'm like, why does that look like Princess Diaries? Like the whole landscaping and like her first arriving at the castle and stuff. Big vibes from that.
Yeah. Alrighty, so overall rating, what would you give it out of 10? 1 being bad, 10 being amazing. I would give it around like a 7.5 or an 8.
I was thinking that same rating. Yeah,
I was literally going to say 7 because it's like, I appreciate it for like what it is and the fact that, when was it made again?
2014.
2014? Okay, I think it fits well with like the surrounding things in that time. And I think it was well produced. I liked the scenery was beautiful. I thought they were pretty good actors. I thought the music was good.
She was gorgeous too. Like when she first came on screen, I was like, damn, she's so pretty.
Yeah, she was really pretty. And I liked that they skipped out on some of those tropes that I don't like. Like I felt like it was overall pretty good. But the corniness and like some of the things threw me off a little bit. So that's where the score's a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Like, I understand being naive, but like that level of naivety was kind of like, all right, normal. Come on, girl, we wouldn't do this. This isn't normal. Like, even I could be naive myself, but I'm not at this level of out of touch with reality, no matter how quote unquote quirky I may be. So that was like one of the things that knocked it down a little bit. Again, their chemistry, like I just didn't really understand it to the point. I feel like it would have been better if maybe they didn't fall. I mean, it is a rom-com, but like if it was more like appreciation of her helping the family and the king get better than like, I don't know. I feel like if that was the main, which, I mean, it was the main storyline, they just didn't need to fall in love. I feel like
they were just straight up attracted to each other, and then the other stuff was just bonuses.
It was just a side effect of the main storyline. Yeah.
I guess.
But it worked.
They just didn't need to fall in love, I guess.
We're just against love, it seems.
Apparently, we must be. Is this our signs? Like our zodiac signs that make us like this?
Who knows?
I'm too logical.
Joking, but
yeah, I've always been told that I'm too logical. Simone yelled at me on one of our episodes for saying that love comes from the brain instead of the heart.
That is true.
Because you went on this whole tangent of like, which by the
V gets it. She's in medical, so.
But it is true, though.
Well, I'm in medical now also, so.
It is true.
It is true, but it's just funny because we were talking about a magical world and you just randomly bring that up. Like, not like this isn't a cartoon already to begin with, Macy.
Okay. I know. I love like the mystical and magical and stuff, but sometimes the realistic brain can't help itself.
But yeah. So yeah, I would also get a 7.5.
Yeah. Overall, I liked it though.
It was a cute movie.
Better
I did enjoy
than it was, not good. Like I said, it made me laugh out loud a couple times, which is a good point on the scale for me.
Yeah, that's good.
And it didn't feel like forever. I feel like the fact that it did go by quickly was the fact that it was pretty interesting. Like they didn't waste a lot of time on like just fluff and things that didn't matter. They just kept it going.
Right.
And I'm like, and all of a sudden 2 hours was already over. So
yeah. Well, to be fair, Indian movies or Bollywood movies typically run for like 2.5 to like 3 hours. So this is actually on the shorter end. But yeah, I picked
this is the shorter end.
I picked this movie though only because I knew it was like really lighthearted and like I felt it was a good intro because the ones that I had in mind are like, you guys said you didn't want to do sad, you didn't want to cry, and I was like, okay, but the good ones kind of make you cry.
Girl, the world already right now is kind of too like upsetting. I kind of need to be not reminded of what we're going through right now. Maybe further down we can get to those sad, more critical thinking movies.
Good.
But right now I can't do it. I can't do it.
Good.
They may be amazing, but my mental state, I can't do it.
We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, that's why I picked the lighthearted one.
Right now, thank you, and I thank you for that. So I needed the cheese. Okay, I appreciate some cheese.
But yeah, that's basically all I had for this movie. I'm glad you guys liked it. Hopefully we do another one sometime in the future.
Yeah, no, I would love to do more. I'd
love to watch one that wasn't made by Disney because I want to see the more authentic side of it. I think it had definitely too many Disney influences.
Yes, which
for me
was kind of hard for me to do that comparison between American movies and a Bollywood movie. But also, I don't know if I had been able to do the comparison because, like I said, I have not watched an American movie that's not a superhero movie in a very long time. Like
it's
even
been a
now,
long time for me too. Honestly.
Yeah, because the American shows I watch, I don't watch a lot of like romantic comedies. They're usually very dark, sometimes murderous. The only lighthearted show I'm watching right now is Abbott Elementary. So. Which I think you need to watch, Nafis. You would like that since you're a teacher. Yeah,
I've been meaning to start it, but I've been so swamped with like work and assignments and things. I'm gonna make time for it.
That's understandable, but it is cute though. I enjoyed that. So just shows like that I've really been watching. That's really it. It's only that one, Grand Crew, and American Auto as far as American shows. Honestly, I haven't been watching a lot of K-dramas in a while either because ones that are longer than 8 episodes, I haven't just been able to. I don't know if my attention span has been getting worse.
That's so funny that you bring that up because I noticed that about myself too. Like I recently watched Our Beloved Summer, right? And it has like 16 episodes.
I've been meaning to watch that. Is that good? Yeah.
I like it. It's cute. Main character is annoying. Not the guy, but the girl.
Isn't she the same girl from Itaewon Class?
The guy, though, he gives me like V vibes, like Taehyung vibes. Like he acts just like him. Well, they're friends.
You know they're best friends in real life. Yeah. Yes.
I'm like, if V were to act, he would act just like this. It's good. I made it up to episode 12 when they got back together, and I'm like, that's enough for me, and I just stopped.
Okay, well, I know like the last episode just came out recently, so
yeah,
I mean, I might go back to watch it.
But right now, I'm not inclined to.
Like that one, we're gonna hopefully do an episode on like Uncanny Counter. I'm stuck on episode 13 and I I haven't willed myself to continue. I can't. I have 3 left, and it's just like it's just so long. Get to the plot already.
Yeah. I do appreciate though that the shows nowadays are coming with lesser episodes because it makes it easier to watch, honestly.
But then, like, I don't know if that's a good thing because that's feeding into our short attention spans.
Yes,
so we already have been
great.
Like conditioned from like TikTok and stuff.
We don't need 16 episodes. We need 8. That's it.
Okay.
It's still 8 hours usually because each episode's an hour long. Yeah. So it's a lot of time.
Just think about it. If you condense the episodes, you're taking out a lot of fluff. Like,
but you also have to think because like most American like TV shows are no more than like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now they're starting to become hours. But like if they're on cable, they usually, well, you got to think commercials.
I honestly haven't watched an American TV show in such a long time that I have no idea what they're even like anymore.
Theme of this episode.
That's true.
I have not watched an American movie or a TV show in so long.
No,
in a very long time.
I literally have not gone to the movie theater since the pandemic started. So
I stopped going before the pandemic. So
same.
That just tells you how long. I really think my last movie I saw in theaters was an Endgame. Might have
probably
been
mine too. Yeah, that was probably
the last movie I saw in theaters was Jumanji 2.
I didn't watch that. I didn't even watch the first one. Are you talking about the new one with The Rock in it?
Yeah, they're pretty good. You guys should watch them.
I still haven't watched it.
I liked the first one, but I haven't seen the second one.
The first one. It's actually funny. Like, Kevin Hart is actually funny in it. Sometimes I think his comedy is like over the top.
Like some shades,
but like,
okay, I was gonna
like
say.
Sometimes he's just too much, but like in this, he's actually like funny. Like his comedy makes sense.
I get it. That's like with The Rock too.
But then The Rock is just The Rock, amazing as usual. Not that I'm biased or anything.
Yeah, not at all. In the feast, what made us think that?
I don't know.
Okay, we're starting to get on a tangent again. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? How do you pronounce this?
Khoobsurat. So you can try.
Do I even want to attempt?
It's okay.
How did you say it?
So yeah, so you can just say like it's KH. So do K.
Say the whole thing one more time.
Khoobsurat.
Khoobsurat?
Yeah,
Khoobsurat?
there you go.
Okay. I have to hear someone say it, and then I try. That's another thing too. When I learn different languages, I hope I don't come across as like imitating someone like with their accent and stuff, but it helps me with my pronunciation.
That's how you learn. Yeah.
Okay.
You did well.
So yeah, thank you. That was my first time trying. Macy, you want to give it a gander? I sound so old.
Give it a gander.
Why did I say that? Give it a gander? Who says that? Macy, do you want to try? Come on, Macy.
Can you say it one more time?
Khoobsurat.
Khoobsurat?
I didn't hear you. Say it again.
You didn't hear me? Khoobsurat?
Yeah, good.
It's also like one of those weird doing languages and the teacher kind of tells you you're good. I'm like,
you guys did really good because sometimes you can't tell what the person is saying, but I was able to, like, you guys enunciate really good. So that's a big plus.
Thank you. How do you say thank you in Hindi?
You're welcome. Shukriya.
Shukriya?
Like I shook Ria.
Shukriya.
Shukriya.
Okay. Thanks. Nothing else we want to talk about as far as the movie?
Overall, good suggestion, Nafis. I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So if we ever want to do a Bollywood movie again, we'll just leave it up to you. I'm sure you have all the...
You have to tell me what type of movie you want to watch, because if not, I'm just going to go to the sad, good ones.
I'm okay.
If we do another one, just do one more lighthearted and then we can get to the sad ones.
A lot of stuff I watch, I'm okay with it being sad throughout the process as long as it ends well. But if it has a tragic ending, I don't like it. Usually. You know what I mean? Like, we can get through trial and tribulation to get there, but at least if the ending resolves well, I'm good with it.
Okay. Good to know.
All right, guys, and I guess we'll go ahead and end it there. So thank you for listening to this. Surprisingly, we gave spoilers to the movie, but we didn't give that many spoilers to the movie. I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have said that it is typical Disney, so that in itself, I guess, is a spoiler.
That's
true. So hopefully you watched it before you listened to us so you understood some of our criticisms. But if not, go watch it. And then, email us how you think it was at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com. But if you also have any other questions, topics you think we should talk about, so you can still email us at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com. Also follow us on the Instagram and the Twitters, the tweets of tweets at iwasthinkingpod. I will put what they actually are in the description because I can't tell if people actually know how they're spelled or not. But if you want to give us a little follows on there, be greatly appreciated. But yeah, other than that, we've been your host, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.